greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Welcome to the Remake Literary License Podcast episode with Keith Shago and co-hosts Vicky Ray and Steve Templeman, discussing the original film and the remake, looking at what was improved upon, where they went wrong, and whether anything lives up to the original. Don't forget to have your say by commenting or sharing links, or just follow us below. Now on with the show.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Hate is baggage. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time. It's just not worth it.
Life.
See, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast, and it's our Remake episode where we'll be covering The Fly from 1958 and the 1986 film. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Joe Rodazzo with us. Hello, Joe.
Hey, everyone.
And Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hey, guys.
And I'm your host, Keith Shago. And before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to. Starting with you, Vix. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
You're going to ask Joe first. You always ask the other person first. Not a whole lot.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to stay on my toes. I've been pretty good lately, actually. But what have I been doing? Oh, of course, Asher's got his summer things going on again. And fixing to go to... My daughter for Mother's Day is taking me to Puerto Rico the end of the month for 4 days, and she's taking me zip lining. So I'm sure you'll see things of me screaming like a little bitch in a couple of weeks.
Wear a bra or you'll have black eyes if you're not careful.
Something. I don't know. What was I watching on Netflix? My daughter kept asking me to watch it, and I finally watched it. It was called Where Did Monday Go? Have you guys seen that? It's about a family. Well, it's kind of like now you're not allowed to have more than one child. No, I'm just kidding. But this guy I don't remember how he had 7 girls and they're all identical. And they're all called by the days of the week. And that's the day of the week that they could go out and be a normal person, whether it be a job or school. And, they're supposedly cryogenically freezing your other children for when the world isn't overpopulated and famine is gone. So I'm just going to give you that. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I really, really liked it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Is it a series or is it a film?
It's a regular movie on Netflix. It's called Where Did Monday Go? Because she's the first one that disappeared. It's just fucked up, but you guys will like it. It's kind of cool. And what did I watch? Oh, I was trying to watch Studio 666 for the Foo Fighters. I couldn't watch it because I didn't want to pay $20 yet. So I'm going to kind of wait for it to come along and, do the thing. But, and I watched The Right with Anthony Hopkins the other night ago. It was kind of exorcist-ish. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. I know it's...
Yeah, it was kind of intense. I mean, it was a little light for me, but it was okay. But other than that, doing my garden thing, I'm all excited. I got all my tomatoes in and all that funny little Southern woman stuff that we do down here in Texas. Other than that, living life, living the dream.
And what about yourself, Joe? What have you been up to?
I've been sick for about a week, so I've been just kind of vegging out and just sometimes not even watching movies. I'm just like like whatever bug is in me, it's got me exhausted. But
sleep it off, man.
That's what I'm going to do as soon as we're done here. Is probably sleep it off. Obviously, I went and watched all the Fly movies since
you
Monday.
did hit them. I knew you were going to hit them all up. I tried to.
Somebody had given me the box set for my birthday last year that had all 5 of them. So I was like, you know what? Let me get them all.
There you go. You had Return of the Fly's Son.
The Curse of the Fly
2 and Curse of the Fly. So I went through all of them. And it's, man, besides the Eric Stoltz one, I like them all. The Eric Stoltz one.
Eric Stoltz one, I don't even think I got through the whole thing. Even my husband's like, ugh. It was rough.
I kept passing
But
out.
that's definitely Zeningard in it as well, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Daphne Zeningard.
It wasn't the best. Sometimes you just can't do a follow-up. Sometimes it's just best to leave it be.
Especially when you're trying to follow Cronenberg.
Oh, no kidding, because he didn't direct that one.
No, he didn't.
Was it Keith? Keith was writing me a text like it was like 11 o'clock my time. I knew he was watching Cronenberg stuff. He goes, damn, he goes, Cronenberg's a sick fuck.
Yeah. And we will definitely get to that today.
I mean, it's quite sad because in 1990, Rennie Harlan wanted to do a sequel to it, didn't he? But with Gina Davis, but didn't actually get off the ground. So
Rennie Harlan in 1990, that might have actually been interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you, Joe.
If it was Rennie Harlan trying to do it in 1990, that might have actually been pretty decent. He was a solid action director around that time, so it might have been a fun little movie had he done it.
Yeah. So it would have been interesting. Or anything else you've been up to?
That is it right now. It's just
Final Four is over.
I've been so exhausted that I've been mostly just sleeping.
You look tired. You really do. Poor baby.
It's weird because this thing's just, I don't know what it is. It's just knocking me out. But I'll get through today and then I will go to bed after I'm done here.
Well, with myself, I've been watching a lot of Disney Plus recently. I watched what was it? The Ice Age movies from beginning to end.
I watched all of them. I have binge watched all the Ice Age movies. That friggin' squirrel man, he's just like the Energizer Bunny.
It's quite interesting because the first Ice Age came out during the first time they started doing CGI films. So it's interesting to see how the CGI progresses with each film, sort of thing. Before everything's quite boxy, and then by the second film, it's like all of a sudden you see the fur. The third one is like all of a sudden you see the watery effects and fire effects, and it's quite from a CGI point of view, they're fantastic, and it's got a good sense of humor. It's got its tongue in there.
I think they're funny. I like the little innuendo jokes that kind of go poof, But
yeah,
how many of these are there?
There's like 6, isn't there? 5 or 6?
Yeah. Wow. The company's now been the company who makes them, Blue Sky, went bankrupt, which is quite weird because Ice Age is the highest grossing and most successful animated franchise of all time still, which for me, I was quite surprised. I thought it'd be like Toy Story or something like that.
They're just great movies. They're fun to watch.
I thought that. But then Disney bought it, and then they did a new movie this year. But they weren't able to get a lot of the voice actors back.
No, really?
Yeah, the one about the curse of Bucky, the one who's in Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
The sloth, or
no, the other one, the one Simon Pegg did the voice for it in the original. He's like he has the one with the eye patch.
Okay, yeah.
So, this is his story, apparently. So, but I like the idea that they actually move from one to the other, and that the story continues. The last one that has all the reasons. I was a bit upset with Peaches because Peaches' little friend gets left behind. They don't care about him anymore. The one that she didn't want to be friends with because it was bad for her image. So the next one's like, where's this little character gone? Like, oh my God, what a bitch. She's left that little friend behind. So, but what else I watch? Oh, I watched Hitchcock again, which if you're an Alfred Hitchcock fan, I really suggest watching that movie.
Which movie was that? I was meant to ask you about that a couple months back.
It's Hitchcock with Helen Mirren.
It's what?
Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins is Alfred Hitchcock, Helen Mirren, and it's about the making of Psycho. Very good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it was excellent. I really liked it. I mean,
it's called Hitchcock.
It's just Hitchcock, and it's on Disney
This is
Plus.
Hitchcock.
So.
Oh, it's on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
That's odd. All right.
Disney now owns Fox, don't they? And Paramount.
That explains Fox News.
So
they don't own Fox News.
Yeah, Death in the Nile's on Disney Plus as well.
I was going to watch that, but somebody told me it was you, Joe. You said I didn't watch it yet, but I love the old one with Peter Ustinov. So a couple of people told me it's nothing compared to the one that Peter Ustinov was in.
I've never seen the Ustinov one. I just thought this one was just okay. Like,
I just love Peter Ustinov.
It's like Murder of the Orient Express. It's like the same people, isn't it? And that was okay.
Yeah,
I didn't watch that one either. I didn't watch it either.
They're beautifully filmed and they're beautifully acted, but I guess
I'm just sick of redos. That's all people do is reboots.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's not really a redo, because the reason why I don't consider it a redo or a remake is because it's Agatha Christie.
Yeah, that's true.
And Agatha Christie stuff gets redone year after year.
Yeah.
I mean, Ten Little Indians and and all that sort of stuff. So I don't really.
There's just so many things out there to explore that no one's touched, though. I'm assuming,
Yeah. But it's a bit like when every time they do a Pride and Prejudice or a Jane Austen. I mean, they are remakes. Let's face it. Or Little Women. I never consider them as remakes.
I'm waiting for that.
The classics again.
I'm waiting for that Nosferatu that's supposedly coming out with William Dafoe.
That could be really good.
I'm told it's actually a movie. I just haven't seen.
You talking about Shadow of the Vampire?
Huh?
You talking about Shadow of the Vampire?
There's currently another Nosferatu.
Nosferatu is coming
Willem
out.
Dafoe and Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yes.
They're going to be in
it.
Oh, okay.
I keep thinking, every time I see it, I keep thinking it's a joke. I don't know.
It's not. I asked a few people today, one of the horror forums, and it's other than people making a fan poster of the movie, it's actual movie coming out. So they just posted it. I just asked them, I can't find anything on it. And everybody a few people piped up and they said, yeah, this is what's going on. So that helped. It's like, I could figure it out. It's like, is this a movie or not?
Well, Shadow of the Vampire, did that start with? Yeah, that started with
Willem Dafoe played
Max
Shrek in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really good movie.
Yeah, that's excellent. That was up there with the one about the guy who did the one about James Whale. They came around the same time, didn't they?
Gods and Monsters, which was literally right next to me as you said that. But
they came around the same. They were on the same time, weren't they?
Yeah, here's the actual movie poster.
Okay, that looks very good.
But there was, and it's supposed to be Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers is directing it. One. Klaus Kinski one's kind of like, oh my God, how long is it?
I actually love the old vintage one. I think it's one of the most beautiful cinematic things I've ever seen. Don't ask me why. It's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I like the original silent film sort of thing.
The redigitized one is just beautiful.
And what else have I watched? Oh, I watched Succession and finished that off. Love that. And I've been watching some real reality programming.
You're back into Love Island again, right?
No, I don't watch Love Island. I watch this thing called Love in the Flesh, where they take these people who've been chatting to each other for like months on end on the internet, and then they put them on an island together and see how they get on in real life. And yeah, it's very sketchy. Let's put it that way. But
my daughter's into Love Island. Oh my God, she's killing me. I refuse to watch that. I just refuse to rot my brain further than it already been rotted this year.
Yeah, well, it's huge in England. So
I still got to find Necromantic too, because I want to see what happens to the lovely couple.
Wow. Something to watch. So
I am too. I won't watch it.
What we're going to do now is we're going to cut to an ad by Fiery Kittens Podcast, who want to thank coming on board. And make sure after you listen to the ad, look for them, because I'm sure that you'll enjoy their show. So take it away, Fiery Kitten Podcast.
Are you itching for a good story? Laughter among friends, maybe even a mystery or two? Well, you're in luck. Firebreathing Kittens is a standalone Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Each episode is a separate 3-hour-long story, like a movie for your ears, so you can listen to these adventures in any order you like. So join us on a real play D&D quest as we solve mysteries, attempt comedic banter, and enjoy friendship. Firebreathing Kittens podcast. Fantasy, action, mystery, friendship.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast. We're discussing The Fly from 1958. Now, The Fly is a 1958 American science fiction horror film and the first installment in the Fly film series. Produced and directed by Kurt Newman and starring David Hedison, Patricia Owens, Vincent Price, and Herbert Marshall. The screenplay by James Clavell and based on the 1957 short story of the same name by George Langland. The film tells the story of a scientist who is transformed into a grotesque creature after a common housefly enters unseen into a molecular transporter with which he is experimenting, resulting in his atoms being combined with those of the insect. This was produced by a human-fly hybrid. The film was released in CinemaScope with color by Deluxe by 20th Century Fox, lenses by Bosch and Lomb. It was followed by two black and white sequels, Return of the Fly from 1959 and The Curse of the Fly from 1965, and the original film was remade in 1986 by director David Cronenberg. Kurt Newman would die 15 days after the release of this film. So
that was sad. Isn't that sad?
Cut to the trailer of The Fly from 1958. I'll be right back.
Will everyone in the theater hold on firmly to his seat, please? Stop it! Stop it! I'm Vincent Price. What unearthly horror did that girl gaze upon? What manner of incredible thing walked beneath that hood? It would be unfair at this time to show you any more of what went on in that laboratory where a man actually dared to play God. So fantastic words can't begin to describe it. You must see it with your own eyes to believe it. When the fly comes your way.
It isn't like any other fly I've ever seen. No! 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 Please let me look at the fly.
I've killed Andre. Please help me. Call the police and...
The charge can only be murder.
There were no mistresses. I had no lovers.
Why did you kill him?
God, don't let it get out.
Inspector, it's in the garden. Come quickly.
As God is my witness, I saw the thing. It's unbelievable. I shall never forget that scream as long as I live.
The fly is on its way. Watch out for it. It's far beyond anything your mind could ever conceive.
Welcome back to Literary License Podcast. We're discussing The Fly from 1958. And starting with you, Joe, what are your thoughts on The Fly from 1958?
Well, I've been waiting a long time because I don't think we've, at least not since I've been here, I don't think we've talked about Vincent Price. So I've been waiting a long time to talk about him because he was the one who kind of got me into horror movies in a way. It was catching House on Haunted Hill late at night when I was in high school. And this was pretty early in my seeing his films. This was one of the ones that my mother kept telling me, "Oh, if you're gonna watch this guy's movies, you gotta see The Fly. You gotta go see The Fly." And cheesy as some of it is, and cheesy as the effects are, it still holds up. I still kind of get that kind of warm fuzzy feeling watching this the other day, and I still just enjoyed it. Unfortunately, as I was watching it with my roommate who had never seen it, based on the title itself and how it opens, it's a movie that kind of spoils itself because you kind of figure out immediately, well, why is this person's head crushed in a hydraulic press? Well, the title of the movie is The Fly, and in the trailers you see the the really cool fly head on a human body. So you do kind of figure it out pretty quickly. So it's odd to me that they went that kind of like that unraveling mystery style with this, because it probably would have been better served to do as like just a straight like monster movie. But that being said,
what would you name it though?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think because 8 years earlier, Sunset Boulevard came out, the film.
Yeah.
And if you look at this movie, it's framed the same way as Sunset Boulevard is. It's like it opens up with the murder, and then we go back in time and it tells the story. So I'm kind of wondering if that would inspire this.
Yeah, this is Joe floating in the pool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what y'all are saying. Okay.
Okay. Like, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, I wonder if that's if that's the way it was intended. I did
because
go ahead.
Because I thought the reason why they did it that way is because I think they knew what their budget was as far as special effects and what they could get away with. So therefore, by opening it that way, then what we can deal with now is a human interest story about this family, and then basically what happens with inside this family. And I think that's probably the way they framed it. Where if they did it the other way, or if they didn't do that, then you would be getting this great big payoff about what this is, expecting these great special effects, which you're not going to really get them, really. I mean, the last scene's quite impressive. But the fly head and the fly thingy, there is a late 50s, early 60s campness to the head. I love the head and I love the thingy.
I love the head in the old one. I just absolutely love it because I don't know why. I think he looks like a fly.
But at the same time, it does have its limitations. But because they framed it this way, for me, it actually makes the film timeless, because even though that's going to happen to him, you're so involved with the Vincent Price character and the wife and the son and the detective, and the way it's framed keeps you interested in the whole story. Where if it was just so basically it's just a special effects movie, I think it probably would miss. I think you'd be very disappointed.
It starts out like a murder mystery, not sort of. I killed my husband. How many times did she say that? Well,
no, she said she. Did she say she killed her husband? Or she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she repeats it multiple times, and I think Vincent Price is Francois. They hint at the idea that he was sweet on her. I think the whole time he's just trying to. Are you he's trying to move her away? Oh, are you sure that this is what happened?
Well, he says he was in love with her. Somebody asked, "You're in love with her, right?" And he said, "Yeah." So he was in love with her.
Yeah, and
he does. Yeah, he does the ultimate betrayal of her, though, doesn't he?
Kinda.
Which almost gets her put away for life, really. Mental institution.
Right.
Oh, I have the fly. So tell me what happened.
The fly with the white head.
I don't have the fly.
Yeah, well, it is a post-atomic kind of thing, and I guess that's what they're going for, because 1958, it was still post-atomic age. What you say?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the dangers of technology. Where technology is kind of like this scary foreign frontier still.
Well, she mentions that in the movie. She sits there and says that things are moving too fast, and that shouldn't.
Yes, exactly.
We need to take a breath here, sort of thing, because technology's just moving too quickly. And he's like, "Oh, you need to explore the future. We need to explore the science and so forth, so far." I mean, God knows what happened to that cat. Cat's still in the ether somewhere. I'm not sure where he is.
Oh God, yeah, the cat.
The cat.
Cat. But I mean, that's kind of like where I wonder how much Star Trek took from this, actually, the teleportation deal, and what other movies nodded to it, because, there were some. You guys always know this stuff.
The interesting thing is, if we were ever actually able to do this, like that kind of matter transporter, it would revolutionize everything.
Yeah.
I'd probably make things worse.
I'd probably still be late for everything, that's fortunately.
I just want another planet. I don't know about you guys, but I just want another planet lately. It's like, please.
Was it Stop the World? I Want to Get Off? But,
They do touch on it more in the in the sequels, especially in Curse of the Fly, there's no fly in that one. At that point, it's just the this family, a couple decades in the future, and they are now teleporting themselves from England to France to the United States, and it's just things are going wrong, and they seem to have almost perfected it, but slight things go wrong, and it's very Island of Dr. Moreau in a way. But
kinda, yeah, sounds like it.
Because you do have like the
I would
stable
be
where they have all the
so
brief-
hesitant to want to get in there. I mean, something's going to go wrong. That just goes again. That's like being God almost.
What I can never understand is that couldn't they? Okay, so they go into pod number 1, and then they end up in pod number 2. I always thought that how come they just didn't go in pod number 2 and just go back to pod number 1? That might fix things.
That's a good idea. I never thought of that.
It's only a one-way pod system, isn't it? It's like a one-way pod system. It seems like. So I thought.
Well, think about all of your atoms,
Yeah.
And I mean, just happens for shits and giggles. A housefly, one of the nastiest little things on the planet besides a cockroach. I would love it if it was the cockroach. Almost, because I hate cockroaches with a passion. We've got cockroaches in Texas the size of sanitation trucks. I kid you not. And I mean, just the fly is a disgusting creature when you think about it, because, everybody goes, you just shoo the flies off your food. But in essence, that's just really nasty. I will not eat anything a fly has landed on. I will not.
Well, especially after the second movie we cover, I think makes you look at flies totally different. Anyway,
that just brings it all into focus, doesn't it? What a fly actually does.
It's funny because I've seen this movie multiple times, and this is the first time I actually figured it out, where I couldn't understand that because the transportation happens, and he's got the fly head and the fly arm, and then you got his head inside the white-headed fly that's sort of flying around and stuff like this. And I could never understand why he didn't make himself known. But then I figured it out, because as he's digressing into being the fly, obviously when his head is progressing into him, isn't it?
The head is progressing in the fly, the little white fly, the white-headed fly.
But you mean that his consciousness is progressing into him as it's digressing in the other ones. And that I could never figure it out. It's like, why doesn't the stupid fly just land where people can find it?
Well, then you got people trying to kill it with a fly swatter and shit, It's like,
I mean, that poor housekeeper.
Oh my God. Don't kill it. Just like, what else am I going to do with it?
And that Maeve was just thinking, she goes, quick, get me the sugar. And that housekeeper's like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to have to clean this shit up.
Well, what was it? It's darkly comical, can you think about it? Because you got this insane chase of this fly going all over the place. And then you got the lady that doesn't know why she has to preserve this fly's life, because they're just nasty little creatures and you just want to kill them because they're gross.
And yeah, go ahead.
I have to sit there and say, though, it's a very, very clever script. The whole thing
is very clever.
And the way that they do it very, very seriously. You know what I mean? Which is fantastic. I mean, this could have been camped.
What did I dug up something about what was it? Vincent Price and Marshall. When they were doing the films, the big climax there about they got the fly with the web. I keep thinking of Joe now with the flies caught in the friggin' spider web. And and he's going, help me. But it said that they said that Vincent Price said it was terrible trying to do this. We could never quite get the lines out, because every time that little voice of the fly would say, help me, they'd start screaming with laughter. So it took like 20 takes to get that one scene. And I would love to find the outtakes. They got to be out there somewhere. So
I'm surprised they actually even filmed it that way.
I don't know. Well, that's just what I read. It was in what was it? 18 Things You Never Knew About the Fly. By Gary
I imagine
Sussman.
they probably just had someone off at the side, didn't they? Just so they can.
Yeah, but I'm shocked they even did that. I'm shocked they didn't just say, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. But one thing,
the voice of the help me fly.
Yeah, help me. Everybody talks about Vincent Price, but David Hedison, is that his name? The who plays Andre?
Yes,
yeah.
really good for a performance that's, for a good chunk of this movie, a very silent performance.
Yeah. He's got that look about him too. He's got
but his, you could kind of see in his performance, like he was, it must have been really hard to do, because he's got to look like he's not in control of his own body. And he's got to like grab his own arm, because the fly arm is trying to move this way. And you could kind of see that he's, you could kind of see the struggle in the performance. So I really dug that. I feel like nobody ever talks about it, but I'm like, that's a really good silent performance. And I mean, it's also kind of got this tragedy about it, because you have this family that's almost idyllic. Everything is going well. Everything seems to be perfect. You got the little kid from 13 Ghosts as your son, and then all of a sudden, this one little mistake, because it's the idea of taking your eye off the ball for a second can fuck you up.
I have to say that all the acting is very, very strong, from the smallest parts all the way up to there. And, and you don't normally get that in this kind of a film normally. There's always some kind of hokey kind of acting going on somewhere, or someone's got their tongue firmly in their cheek. But this one, I mean, they play it very, very
not at all
well.
in this one.
I mean, yeah, and that's what's fantastic. I think that's what really sells it. I mean, Vincent Price is basically a supporting character in this as well.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny that it's now considered a Vincent Price film, but at the end of the day, he's just really a supporting character.
I don't think he's ever done a character I can't say I've disliked. Honestly, I mean, Witchfinder General, he was a real asshole, but he was really good at it, though. But he was so good
that's the
at
only
it.
one I could think of is the Witchfinder General. He's a total prick in that.
Oh, but he's fabulous at doing that, though.
If you look at some of his noir films that he did, like Laura and things like that, he plays a really good bastard.
Yeah, The Web.
But even sorry,
there's a movie called The Web where he's kind of a prick in that too. Yeah, the noir stuff, he was much more of an asshole.
Yeah, but he's good at it though.
Yeah. Well, even in because we did cover a bunch of Vincent Price films when we did our Edgar Allan Poe season.
Lygia.
So a lot of his stuff came through there.
I still can't find those glasses from Tomb of Lygia. He had those black sunglasses on. I want a pair of those so bad, and I can't find them.
But if you look at the Edgar Allan Poe films that he did, I mean, none of those characters were likable, were they? Really? I mean, okay, the comedy ones when he did The Raven with that's all done for laughs. But if you look at like Gia and you look at Mask of the Red Death and House of Ushers, it's like he's not the nicest characters in those movies. But he wasn't the nicest characters in those. I love him in everything he does, but when you think of some of those films, like you think, but then I remember rewatching it, it's like, God, he's not a very likable character, but he's very likable. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah,
well, his charisma always came through in his roles, and I think that's why, no matter what he did, I mean, Theater of Blood and The Abominable Dr. Phibes are basically slasher movies, and yeah, he's not likable in those either. But there is this personality and this charisma that's always come through with him, and it's always made you like him no matter what he was doing on screen.
Yeah, and he has made some turkeys, like The Bat, for instance, with Agnes Moorehead and like that. But you can't stop. I mean, but when they're on, you can't stop watching him. He's the kind of person that can basically sell a sewage to you and you just buy it. You know what I mean? There's something about, he's got that special quality that
he was in this
very
movie,
few people really have.
He was in The Song of Bernadette with Jennifer Jones as a mean kind of old lawyer. And I mean, that was a tearjerker of a movie anyway, but he was in the end of that. And I mean, he becomes a believer kind of sort of when he finds out he's dying of cancer at the end of that movie. I just bawl every time I watch that stinking movie. It's so sad, but it's great.
Isn't he also in like the Ten Commandments and other films like that, isn't he?
Yeah, he was one of the slave drivers in the Ten Commandments. And again,
he was the one that Moses killed. He was the dirty, perverted old slave driver. Master slave driver, master butcher.
And when he dies, you're really upset that he's gone.
There's just something about him that he's one of those guys, like Keith said, he could sit there reading the phone book and you're going to be entertained by it. You're going to be entertained by it. There's just some innate quality with him that he was just that good. He was that charismatic a performer.
I mean, I would also sit there and say that if it wasn't him on the song Thriller, I don't think Thriller would have been the huge success that it was. His narration when that comes on basically just really sells it. I mean, you know what I mean? It's
yeah. Absolutely. I listened to it just to hear him on there too. I love the song too. And I remember, like when we were young girls, we had to do dance, I'd probably throw my back out if I try to do that now, but
also on the track Devil's Food by Alice Cooper, where he's talking about the Black Widow. That's fantastic.
Alice Cooper had a great little horror show going back in the day.
Yeah. He's one I got to scratch off my bucket list. I got to go see him before he dies.
I've seen him like 4 or 5 times. You have to see his song, especially when he does Feed by Frankenstein. Mind-blowing fun. Love it.
I saw Alice Cooper. I didn't see him in concert, but when in the late 90s, they brought out Jesus Christ Superstar at the Lyceum here, and he played Pontius Pilate. No, he played King Herod. So he'd come out every night and do his that, and then that'd be it. It's like he was fantastic. And then I noticed that John Legend. Then I remember that John Legend reused him again for his version when they televised it live that time. So it's like, well, okay. But yeah.
So if it was televised, I should be able to get my hands on it somehow. I'll look for that.
The John Legend one's televised. That's available.
The Jesus Christ Superstar, the new version where everybody's dressed funky. I don't know what the Roman Praetorian Guard guys have got on, but it's totally different from the other one. A lot of people hated it, but I just love the music. I don't really give a shit who's singing.
The music's fantastic. I think the only thing that kind of sells it a little bit is that there's a little bit too much going on. I would hate to be there and see it live, but on screen, I mean, it works fine on television. And John Legend's vocals, I mean, Jesus is not a hard sing until you get to that one Jesus song. I only want to say, how will I
Garden of Gethsemane?
And then you have to go, and you can't really do that sort of thing.
Well, but Ian Gillian and who was the other one? Ted Neely, man, they were screamers. They just were.
Well, we had this Scottish guy called Steve Boshamo. I'll send you his link on WhatsApp. You got to hear him sing it. And this guy is gorgeous looking. And then he opens his mouth and he just has this heavy rock, Axl Rose kind of voice that comes out of it when he does that. And it's like, oh my
I remember
God.
in '93, I went to the Landmark Theater to see the Ted Neely production, one of the last ones of Jesus Christ Superstar, because I was pregnant with my daughter Brittany. I remember that because I was trying to find a comfortable spot, and I was just like, but it was just amazing.
He's still performing it, every once in a while. I mean, he was on tour with it about 3 or 4 years ago.
Was he really?
Yeah, I mean, he's like 70, almost 80 years old now, and he's still playing Jesus. I mean, Jesus died when he was 32. I mean, going back to The Fly, I have to give Patricia Owens a nod there as well. I don't know where else I've seen her before, but she's fantastic in this. Is the wife,
especially when she's screaming and you see the Fly's view of her screaming and all these little faces.
Well, what I also liked about her performance is that she keeps it low key. She never goes into the huge hysterics at all. Because the scream when she sees the Fly head, but she keeps it very low key. And to be honest, she does everything very slight, which I think is very impressive. Like when she's like, she's sitting there and she gets her breakfast straight, she hears a fly and she's just moving her out, sort of thing. And she just does everything very, very small, which is fantastic because I think if someone else kind of did it, they probably would have done it quite big. They kept moving their head like in great big exaggerated moments, but she just keeps everything very contained. And I found her very she's very watchable as well, considering that in the end of the day, you're basically following her from the beginning of the film to the end, really.
It really is her story, yeah.
Yeah, she's your typical 50s housewife kind of thing, too. With the husband and the house and the whole 9 yards. And her husband turns into an insect, you know?
Well, I mean, the thing is she's almost a single mother as well, isn't she? Really?
Yeah, he's never there.
He's never there, and she's off going off to parties on their own. This folk will go to, and and he goes, "Oh, we'll go out for the evening." I mean, she could have been a bit more stronger when he's like, "What? You put the cat in there?" And basically, our son's been having difficulty sleeping and having difficulty because his pet's so gone. And so, she could have put her, she could have been.
The character, like even with either character that plays, the fly guy there, either whichever one, Brundlefly or even him, they're selfish too. When you think about it, they're so into their own shit that they don't realize how everything's going on around them. And that's one thing I noticed, because they got this quest to be godlike, with their technology, and it becomes an obsession, and it doesn't do anything good for everybody around them either.
I also think, it seems like a scientist is painted like the same way an artist is painted. They're very into their art or their job, and nothing else matters outside of that. So, like the striving artist, whether it's, Seurat or Picasso or anything like this.
Right.
And it seems like that the scientists are always very driven and, single-minded towards their experiment. I think so. I do kind of wonder. I mean, it is a bit premature that he went from hamster to himself. It's kind of like, you might want to work your way up the mammal scale, go hamster, and then maybe, I don't know, try to get the family cat back, maybe, and then maybe an ape, something with a bit more. I mean, the human body is very, very complicated. So it is a bit more complicated than a hamster. So.
I mean, it's kind of a jerk move also to have a do the plate, and it comes back inside out, and then you're like, well, let me throw the cat in there.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. It's like, oh, I know, it's like, God, it's fucking mean. That doesn't even account for the baboon in the second one. It's like, well, people are just, I'd hate to be a lab animal, because let's face it, they do such cruel things to animals, and I understand the need, but I just don't want to know about it.
I was thinking that if they threw David Bowie in with his eye color the other way around, because he has one blue eye and one green eye, it's happened like Jane Seymour, just opposites. There's a blue eye on the right, it'd be on the left.
Well, if you're figure though, I mean, that would be quite the thing to have something. Your atoms are all mixed up and smashed around, and you're teleporting to something else. That's really kind of mind-boggling. Just to think that you can reassemble perfectly,
Well, it's a bit like television was apparently like that in the early days anyway, because what would happen with television is, like, if your area would pick it up and then descramble it in your television, and in the early television the wording would be backwards. Because
remember Willy Wonka, the little kid turns to the little shit that likes to eat too much TV.
Mike TV. Yeah.
And his little atoms are above everybody, and he's going over to wherever, That's what it reminded me of.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
I mean, I was quite interesting when they said the fly costume featured a 20-pound fly head, from which he said trying to act in it was like trying to play the piano with boxing gloves on. He said Henderson was never happy with the makeup, but the makeup artist, Ben Nye, remained very positive about his work, writing years later that despite being many subsequent science fiction films, I never did anything as sophisticated or original as The Fly. Which is quite interesting. I mean, a 20-pound head. I mean, that must have given you a headache. I mean, it's probably a good thing that you don't see him in the head for very long, maybe. Could you imagine carrying this?
It was kind of a short, well, it was the end, really. You don't see him like that because he's got the cloth over and he's sitting there eating his food. That kind of gnarled me out without even looking at it. Because like I said, bugs just gross me the hell out. And he's just putting his head down with his cloth over his head. You could hear him sucking up all the food, Just thinking about it, it's just like cringe.
Slurping away.
Yeah. Cringe.
So, let's give this a rating then. Out of a scale of 1 to 5, how many stars would you give this?
I'd go 4.5. It's got that 50s camp, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a little too simplistic. But it's still a captivating story. It still holds your attention for the hour and a half or so that it runs. So I would definitely recommend it to anybody. It got me kind of watching a couple of sci-fi movies from that era, because I just watched
there's so many too.
The Deadly Mantis while I was
that is one of my favoriteest movies in the entire world. I used to think that was real when I was 5 years old. There was a giant praying mantis somewhere.
It was so cheesy too, but
it's cheesy as hell, but it's awesome. It's just awesome.
This movie got me in the mood to watch more cheesy 50s sci-fi. So
that's what I've been doing actually for the last week and a half. I just love that stuff. I forgot how great it is. I
guess on that level, it's fine, because it left me wanting more of these types of films. And I like both of the sequels to this version. I think they both work in their own way, even the one without Vincent Price. Because there was more to that story than that you could pick up on.
There definitely movie? Could have been somebody could pick up on it and probably do something with it, because there is there could be, some closure to that. There's always no closure with movies like this. What happened to the people?
Return of the Fly, I liked. I liked because of the it had a really cool supporting cast too, because you had Dan Seymour, who's in a lot of the old Humphrey Bogart movies. He was always one of the villains or one of the cops or something like that in those, and he's a good villain here. That one is more of like a straightforward horror / sci-fi movie. Curse of the Fly, I had slept on for so long, because I watched it once as a kid and I didn't really like it. And then when I went back now, I went back and I watched it, and there's all this the gaslighting of the main character, who is this woman who escapes from an asylum, and the family, the descendants of basically Francois and Andre, years from now, they're harboring this secret because they keep trying to put people through the teleportation. There's always like a little thing turns him into something, some kind of monster, and they're keeping him in a stable. But now, because she is married into the family, and she was in a mental asylum, and that they kind of use that against her, kind of make it seem like she's crazy whenever she's trying to tell people, no, they have these beasts in the stable. Like, I do kind of like both. There's a lot you could do with it. And yeah, I love this movie. So
what about yourself, Vix?
I just give it a 5, just because of the warm fuzzy and the happiness it brings me to think of Monster Movie Matinee when I was a little kid. And I just love that shit. And I did. My mother just always watch it with me. When I go home to visit, we'll watch this goofy shit still together. But I mean, there's so many cool things. Everybody wants CGI. I get it. You want the Godzilla and you want the King Kong of now and everything. But there's just something just so cool and so good and so simple about post-atomic era sci-fi. It's just good stuff.
Fun.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, I just watch it. I mean, it's one of those movies, no matter what, like if it's a rainy day and you got regular cable on, I'll sit there and watch it,
Yeah, these are the kinds of movies that, like, my mom and my dad used to like. And, like the kind of stuff I used to watch with them. And actually, I realize this now, watching this movie again, because my mother, whenever she saw me watching Vincent Price movies, she would not, I'm like, he's an American. He's born in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But she would always be like, no, he's a French actor, isn't he? I'm like, no, he's not. And I realized, because this is the movie of his that she knew, and his name is Francois, and it's set in Quebec, that must have, in her mind, put it in there. That
maybe,
he's this French
yeah,
actor.
maybe.
So But yeah, these are the kinds of movies that I just enjoy, like just kind of vegging out and just kind of having fun with.
Especially the end with the help me. My immaturity level just comes out so much with that. So help me. That's the one thing. Every bit sticks out in any horror fan's head is the fly, stuck in the spider web. And then you got the spider looking at him like this,
Well, it's also mentioned, that ending is also mentioned in a lot of films. Like one of my favorite films is Lucas with Corey Haim, and when they go to the like a double feature, and they're showing the fly, and they got them in the car. They got them in the car later on, and and they're going, help me. They're all talking about this. It's like as soon as they say that, what they just saw. It's exactly. It's history. It's cinematic history.
The effect is cheesy, but it works, man. For 1958, it's fine.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty effective watching the guy with the little head on there.
Well, especially when you got the spider, like the first thing it's doing is chomping down on its head. Yeah, that was quite horrific,
gruesome. It's gruesome and it's scary when you're 8 years old.
And it couldn't be thrown in, like when this film came out in 1958. That was really even more gruesome. We're desensitized and we find it gruesome. Can you imagine 1958? It must have been like.
Well, it's because it's the point of view of the spider coming down on you. So that's what's really terrifying about it.
Definitely.
And we also know what spiders do to flies within their webs anyway. They sit and they bite down on the head and they suck out all the blood.
Or if you're an asshole like us when we were kids, throwing bugs into spider webs to see what happens. Yeah. The little morbid shits that we were.
And they're being wrapped up and everything. I mean, I'm going to give The Fly a 5-star rating. The reason why it's me for 5-star rating is it's a very, very strong script, strong performances.
Definitely.
It bypasses, time and space. For something that could be very hokey, it could have been done like very camp. It's not done at all. And to me, it's not. I mean, I even love the way it's filmed, and the color just pops as well. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of bizarre. They had the first film as like this colorized film, and then the sequels are black and white, which is kind of odd.
That is weird. I never understood that.
Well, the last one even was done in 1965, so it's kind of like color was kind of a thing by that time, sort of thing.
Right.
So, because color television was only 2 years behind that, but films were doing color way before that. So, but yeah, The Fly for me is a solid 5-star for me.
Oh God!
Every time I watch it, I love it. So I can't.
I watched it like 2 or 3 times this week because I liked it so much. Like I kept finding new things that I kept missing. You do.
It's a great script. I mean, I have to admit, it's a very strong script as well. Very strong.
Oh, no complaints at all.
This brings us to The Fly from 1986, which is an American science fiction horror film directed and co-written by David Cronenberg. It was produced by Brooks Films and distributed by 20th Century Fox. The film stars Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, and John Getz. It was loosely based on the George Langland's 1967 story of the same name in the 1958 film that we just covered. The Fly tells a story about the eccentric scientist who, after one of his experiments goes wrong, slowly turns into a fly hybrid creature. The score was composed by Howard Shore, and the makeup effects were created by Chris Wallace, along with the makeup artist Stephen Dupuis. And I'm sorry, Stephen, if you're alive today, I'm sorry if I massacred your name. The Fly was released on April 15, 1986, to massive acclaim by critics and audiences, with praise mainly regarding the special effects and Goldblum's performance. It grossed $60.6 million at the box office against his $9 million budget, becoming the largest commercial success of Cronenberg's career. Wallace and Dupuis' work on the film resulted in their winning an Academy Award for Best Makeup. The only Oscar won by a film directed by Cronenberg. A sequel directed by Wallace was released in 1989. We're going to do is cut to the trailer and be right back to discuss The Fly from 1986.
I think you're making a mistake. I think you really want to talk to me.
Sorry, I have 3 other interviews to do before this party's over.
Yeah, but they're not working on something that'll change the world as we know it.
They say they are.
Yeah, but they're lying.
There is a limit, even to the imagination.
Human teleportation, molecular decimation, breakdown, and reformation is inherently purging.
Where our greatest creations meet our deepest fears.
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
You are about to go beyond that limit.
Those weird hairs that were growing out of your back, I had them analyzed. But they were definitely not human. If you saw how scared and angry and desperate he is...
I'm sure Typhoid Mary was a very nice person, too, when you saw her socially.
No!
You're afraid to be destroyed and recreated, aren't you?
You're changing, Seth. Everything about you is changing.
Oh, no. What's happening to me? Am I dying? I want to know what's going on.
What does the disease want?
It wants to turn me into something else. Oh, no. A fly got into the transmitter pod with me that first time when I was alone. Don't go back to it. It could be contagious.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid!
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Help me. Please, help me.
Hello, welcome back to Literature License Podcast, and we're discussing The Fly from 1986, directed by David Cronenberg. And Vicky, what are your thoughts of this film?
Gross. I mean, I end up watching stuff that I know is just going to violate my brain because I know it's going to be nasty. Because I knew even before that somewhere in this film there was going to be a live birth of an insect in some capacity. So whether it was a dreamscape or whether it wasn't, but I mean, it kind of rivals the other one. But again, we have the extra special, effects with this one. And we got a hornier fly, obviously, because they go into what fly. I mean, he's actually being a fly because that's what flies do. They're born, they become maggots and they breed other little flies. And they're gross and they throw up on their food and it disintegrates. And then they suck it back down with their straw, like whatever the hell that is in their mouth. But I found out some of the background of this was just almost just as interesting as the production itself. I didn't know Mel Brooks was really largely responsible for getting this into production. And he wanted to stay out of it because he was afraid no one would take the film seriously. He was also behind David Lynch's Elephant Man. I didn't know that. Just interesting stuff. And they wanted Cronenberg originally for The Fly. And he was studying to be an entomologist in college. Did not know that either. And they were, but they weren't going to have him. I guess, what was it? Bierman was going to be the director. Mm-hmm. And he dropped out of The Fly. Producers learned that Cronenberg was no longer working on Total Recall, and he was available. Now, what happened to Bierman's daughter was killed in an accident in South Africa. That's what happened. And they got him for that role because he really wanted Cronenberg to do it. But I have to remember watching the Vampires Kiss because I don't remember that one. Do you guys remember that?
That's the one with
Nicolas Cage one?
Yeah, I believe so. Because he was supposed to, I guess he goes on to make, Bierman goes on to make that as opposed to doing this particular Fly. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes on this that went on. And I mean, I totally forgot that Gina Davis and Goldblum were actually an item back in the day when they were doing this. Forgot about that too.
That was actually part of the marketing. Premiere Magazine would have these two on the couple. Like this new power couple of Hollywood are making a film together. So I think they broke up shortly after this because she did a movie with Rennie Harlan and it kind of ran off with him. But But I remember that this was all part of the marketing campaign of these two dating, and they had been like in bed together, with a sheet wrapped around them as like part of the not as on magazine covers, and
the sex was kind of ooey after a while, because I know and that he's just exchanged atoms with a fly, that like the girl he picks up. That's kind of vulgar sex when you think about it, because did you see the look on his face? She's obviously not from her purview, seeing what, the look on his face, but he's just mating to make other little flies.
Well,
he turns into.
But wasn't she kind of like drugged up? Wasn't she kind of just drugged up and alcohol filled anyway? The girl that he picks up?
Yeah.
I thought she was a junkie or something. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, I knew
that's
she
the way
had
she
the
comes
point.
off.
Huh?
I said, yeah, that's definitely the way she comes off, is that she's just kind of this junkie, yeah.
And then Gina Davis walks in on him. Basically, the whole thing is that it's a definitely more modern take on the 58 version. But I mean, I watched it twice because I was trying to get a better handle on it. Because when you watch things, I haven't watched it in years. And when you watch things, like I always say, with your older, new adult eyes, whatever, you always find stuff that was just kind of fascinating. And I didn't really catch on the first few times I watched it when I was younger, that when he's trying to put Gina Davis into the atom smasher, or whatever you want to call it, that he wants to become a single human with baby. She's pregnant by him. And, he wants them all to be in unison in one big, happy entity of sorts. And it's just an ooey feeling. I think what it does, this film does, maybe it's because I'm a woman, I don't know, but it kind of pushed up against my comfort zone, I guess. You know what I mean? A little bit.
This film very much fits into the body horror of David Cronenberg anyway. So
right.
That. I thought what was quite interesting about this film is that the first one is basically a family drama with a science fiction aspects in it. This is basically the science and this is the reality if this would really happen. This is what would happen. So they've gone for more of a realistic scientific approach to this, which I thought kind of adds to it actually, because it's very believable. I mean, for the simple fact that this happened, this is what's going to happen. Now, as far as mixing your DNA and going as far as would your body mutate on this matter, I mean, we don't know, do we? But it's an interesting premise, and it's a premise that you take seriously, which is quite an amazing feat if you think about it. That basically you're going to go into this pod, your DNA is going to mix, and you're slowly going to become this. And it's very believable. Now, it feels like, it's kind of, even though it's the science fiction, this feels like science fact when you're watching this, because
all fun and games until you put a baboon.
He's done an amazing job.
The poor baboon, though, it turns inside out. I mean, I'm an animal lover. That was torturous to watch, and I knew it's not real. It's not real. He didn't turn the baboon inside out.
I mean,
but Chris Wallace's effects are so good that.
Precisely, and Jeff Goldblum's performance really sells it.
He was fantastic, Jeff Goldblum, for being a little known guy from The Big Chill.
Well, Jeff Goldblum's career was basically the goofy, nerdy guy and everything. Whether it was Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai or
Buckaroo Banzai, I forgot about that.
And he always was like the geeky person. I mean, the oddest thing about it is that after this film came out, that his career never really soared like it should have. I mean, he kind of is like there and there, but then he doesn't come back until like Jurassic Park.
That's when he really kicked in, I think.
Well, only as that character, but he's one of these actors that kind of is just always under the scale, no matter what they do and how big they become. They kind of hit, and then they kind of go away. And they hit and go away, sort of thing. And then Gina Davis, of course, went out to do Thelma and Louise, and that made her big for a while. So.
Is she one of those people that kind of got screwed over by Weinstein?
Gina Davis? I don't think so. I mean, the list is long and infamous, but I don't think she was on there.
Well, she started out as a glorified extra in Tootsie.
A what?
That's right.
the glorified extra in Tootsie. Basically, is that they needed someone who was pretty, and they put her in Tootsie, and they just wanted someone to say one line, and that's her start. I mean, the amazing thing is that Jeff Goldblum is over 6 foot tall, and Gina Davis is 6 foot tall. So I have these two people. It's probably the first time in movie history where the two leads are basically almost the same height. no one's standing.
That's
in a
right.
box
They're both pretty tall.
Yeah.
But the one thing though that I was trying to figure out, okay, so we know she gets pregnant, and that she tells the other lover, the old boyfriend / boss, that she wants it out of her now, and they're trying to find her an abortion and everything. But what I'm trying to understand, she had sex with him before he even atomized himself, right?
Yeah, she had sex because he went through the system, and then they had sex because he's really excited. She goes, "Oh, you got your stamina is really there."
Oh, that's right. Okay, so technically, I guess if it genetically screwed him up, his sperm count's looking pretty ugly. So
It's really hard to say because the mutation in him is a gradual mutation, so it's not an overnight mutation. So as far as his sperm
mutating,
it might be the old genes. It might not have new genes that are mutated because he's mutating at a gradual pace, and so it's hard to really say what the baby would be. I mean, you can guess.
God, it's just such a. I mean, he was the only actor that they found that would take on the role that didn't mind all the latex and the horrible makeup and all the crap that you got to go through to, portray this character. But I thought he did such a fantastic job. He's already weird anyway. Let's face it, Jeff Goldblum is a little weird, but that's what makes him great. And I couldn't have thought of another person to take his place for this after watching it.
Well, that's his persona. Like Keith was saying earlier, he was always the weird nerd and everything. And he's another one who's got such great charisma that there's one thing this movie does better than the original, and that's the kind of descent into madness.
Right. Yeah, it does show that. You're right.
And even when you're listening to him babble, like he's babbling about Brundlefly and how he's so entertaining doing that you kind of chuckle at it. He's like Vincent Price, he's one of those guys. He's just got so much charisma. He's got so much personality, and it just comes through even under all those prosthetics when he's Brundlefly. I love that he names himself too. I love that he names himself Brundlefly.
I like when he's sitting there trying to type, and he's got the pencil in his mouth, and his teeth are falling out.
Yeah.
I mean, just my vanity alone would have me freaking out and wanting to shoot myself at that point. It's just like, oh my God, he's so ugly. And it's such a horrible countenance that he starts to descend in, or he's evolving into, and there's nothing. Even if he does get that fly and they try to exchange, I don't think there's changing that stuff back. No. I think he's screwed.
The funny thing about Jeff Goldblum is that I just remember one of the first movies I saw him in, when he basically playing the rapist murderer in Death Wish.
Oh, that's right. He was in that, wasn't he? I knew I'd seen him in something else, and I couldn't figure out where it was.
Yeah, he's the guy that follows him from the grocery store.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, that's right. That is like one of the worst rape scenes I've ever seen. I can normally watch stuff like that, but there's something just particularly brutal about that in Death Wish. That was a real brutal rape scene. It just was.
Well, I mean, he's been around since 1974.
But I wouldn't have remembered him had you not said that.
I watched Death Wish recently, and I remember before the Big Chill, I remember him in the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That's right. He was the nerdy sidekick in that too.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then,
I'm gonna have to rewatch that now.
And then of course you had the Big Chill, and then the Right Stuff came out.
Yeah.
And, so it's kind of funny, but you see him getting like bigger and bigger, but he always played that kind of awkward. Tall.
I like
to be honest, he's very big featured you got a big eye. I mean, he's very tall and very lanky as well. So.
Well, he is kind of cute in a weird sort of way. So when she's saying he's really adorable and she just eat him to pieces, there's just something about it. You want to squeeze his little cheeks, but then he just goes from handsome, cute to, Just God, it's such a horror. I mean, you can tell it's Cronenberg. You really can, especially with the birth of the maggot. That just about put me out every time I see that.
But then he does like really. I mean, I think the thing with Goldblum is what's quite funny is that he'll do like The Fly, and then he'll do like some straight to video stuff. And it's like okay, and then it's like, and then it'll pop up like an alien Earth Girls Are Easy, and you're like, what are you doing in this? I mean, I love Earth Girls Are Easy. I mean,
actually, now that I think of it, he worked with Michael Winner a lot because he was also in Michael Winner's The Sentinel. He had a part in that.
Oh yeah, so that's right.
I don't remember that.
That is a batshit crazy movie.
Yeah, that's the
one. If you guys want to watch a very very strange, horror movie from the early '80s, the Sentinel is a weird one with Beverly D'Angelo is like a chronic masturbator.
Really? How did this one get by me?
Don't she live with her sister?
Oh, that's right. I did watch that. I remember that.
Was it her sister? Or was it like she has
her
like
mother? It's her mother,
or some kind of lover,
lesbian lover or something.
Yeah,
in the book,
lover.
It's a lesbian lover. I read the book. In the book, that they're mother and daughter, and they do really. I'm not even going to go into the graphics of the sex between mother and daughter.
I've never read the book. I've seen the movie. The movie is.
But I have seen the movie now that I think about it, and I remember that scene. That's why I just don't remember the whole movie.
The author of that book. It used to be a really good friend to we used to promote all our stuff in our literary agency.
Really? That's cool.
So, and I still get emails from him once in a while, but it's like, but he's a lot, I still get his books to review. What's his name?
I probably have the DVD here, which will probably list his name on it somewhere. Like if I could fucking spot it.
I totally forgot about that movie.
Jeffrey Knetz. That's him.
There it is.
Is that 77 or is that a 1980 movie?
It
might be 77.
70. Well, the book was published in 74. The adaptation was in 1977.
There you go.
Okay.
I was going to say, I said 1980, but it could very well be 1977.
Oh, that's right. Christina Rains is in this. I remember this now. Michael Winner. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just realized now he worked with Goldblum a lot. Apparently, yeah, they must have liked working together.
Chris Sarandon was in there. He always pops up in movies all the time. I've noticed he just shows up now from older movies.
I don't think Michael Winner would get funding nowadays because all his films are about rape and women being abused or something, aren't they?
Yeah, almost always. I remember watching something where, what is her name? She wound up on Star Trek. She was the woman that was the rape victim in Death Wish 3. She was talking about just how working on Death Wish 3 was just like one of the most traumatic experiences of her life because of just the way the rape scenes were filmed during that. And so, yeah, Michael Winner nowadays would like even the Death Wish remake that came out a couple years ago, and you have Eli Roth doing it. That had to be toned down quite a bit because you would never.
I don't think I watched it. What is it because of the Me Too movement, the rape scenes, or?
Well, I forget what year this came out, but the Death Wish remake's okay. It's just not. It's not.
I never watched it.
Well, he made. He did do one where the woman gets the revenge thing called Dirty Weekend.
Right.
That was one of his last movies.
That one I did not.
And that's but I mean it's still quite hard hitting from a modernized version. I mean, this is like the 90s, maybe late 90s that he came out. I think it was his last film.
I've seen some people putting they're not really sparing people these days. When
those kinds of those like rape revenge movies, like you really like. I know they rebooted I Spit on Your Grave, but I feel like you really
three times.
And there was
the other ones are just sequels to the original remake. So
yeah, there's now a direct sequel to the original that came out. My friend Maria Olsen. She's the wife of one of the victims from the first movie.
I didn't see that. What's it called?
Oh,
when you get a chance, just write me.
Deja Vu.
What is it?
I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu.
I did not see that one.
But these kinds of movies, like you can't like make like MS-45 or Miss 45 or Thriller or Cruel Picture. You can't make those now. You're right. You'd never be able to get them done.
No. And even though Miss 45, in effect, is quite a female-empowered movie in its own right, if you think about it. I mean, the rape is bloody horrible.
I don't know. Big Driver was horrible, pretty rough. Big Driver, that was rough.
Yeah, but she gets a revenge sort of thing.
That's the whole point. I mean, it's brutal rape, but boy, she kicks his ass. All of them. It's like, I love her in that movie. I didn't know that was Joan Jett as the bartender. I was like 5 days old when I learned that was Joan Jett. Told like she should have pursued acting. You know that?
Well, she did. She did Light of Day, didn't she? With Michael J. Fox, which she's very good in.
Right.
The movie's not very good, but she's the one that got all the praise. So
I was in a movie with her.
Really?
2001. She was nice. She was nice enough. And what's his name? He was in he's in Frankenhooker. He's the lead in Frankenhooker. James Lorenz. He was the male lead. And basically, yeah, like I was just I was an extra. I didn't have any lines, but there were a few times where like my character's just like sitting there, like it's I'd never seen the movie. I don't know if I think it got finally released like in 2012 or something. It went straight to DVD, but this was like 10 years after it was made. But we were I was in a bar scene with her, and I'm just a guy who's like hitting on her, and they just kept shooting her reactions to me saying whatever lines my character was saying. I didn't actually have any lines of dialogue, so it didn't matter. But it was basically she was just some woman who's out on the bar scene and like bored with the bar scene. From what I can,
that's great, Joe. I'm gonna find this.
That was kind of cool. The movie's called The Sweet Life. I don't know how easy it is to find. I've never seen it.
Find it, damn it.
I've never seen it, so I have no idea. I have no idea if I even ended up in the final cut. I might not be in it. It seems to me like what they were doing.
What's that? Have you seen the documentary that she's done about her life, Joan Jett's? It's really good.
I haven't seen a documentary about it.
She could still kick it in concert because I saw her before COVID hit. Right before. Oh my God.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fantastic
still
woman. Just a powerhouse.
I was quite shocked that she wasn't a lesbian.
She is.
No,
I think she
not.
is.
No, she's not. She's been with her boyfriend.
Well, no, she's bisexual, as are most people, but they just don't act. But she did have female relationships.
Well, I mean, the Runaways. I mean, two of the people from the Runaways went into the Bangles, didn't they? And one went into the Go-Go's.
Yeah. I like the Go-Go's and the Bangles. I mean, a lot of people don't know that. It's a secret, but I like their music.
No, I like them as well, but to think of the Runaways and then breaking into these other groups.
Can you imagine how crazy it must have been to be a band of girls in the latter 70s, mid 70s? How fucking crazy that is to be a rock band?
Apparently, it wasn't very nice.
Well, apparently not, but I mean,
because
crazy
would,
shit.
If it wasn't for Japan, they probably would have died a very death, because they said they were performing and people were throwing bottles and things at them and then spitting at them and everything, and then basically it's like they go on stage and people were just feeling them up all the time and grabbing them like they owned them.
Well, it was a different world back then. It really was.
Well, I think it has to do that you're a female rock and roll group.
Well, they were young girls. They were scantily 15, 16.
Well, let's be honest. They were the only female rock group.
At that time, yeah.
Besides,
I mean, you had female singers, independent singers, but...
Wasn't Girl School around that time?
I don't think
Girl School came out afterwards. They became a copy of them.
And then you got Hart and Vixen and all of them that followed. But they would have never happened if it wasn't for the Runaways, though. I believe that.
I mean, Hart was a bit different because he got two sisters, and then you got a male backing. They got the male band with them. Do you know what I mean? So
right, I get you.
Probably, where you just got. I mean, these girls were 16 years old. The Runaways. One of Cherry was 14.
Yeah,
I didn't realize they were that young.
I mean, they were young if you think about it. I mean, Girls School were like 18 to 20-year-olds. These are people who were like 14 to 16-year-old girls.
Oh, they were young kids. They were kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize they were that young. Wow.
Yeah.
They were just teenagers.
Yeah.
It was just a wild time back then.
But this Joan Jett documentary, look for it. It's on Amazon. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it. That sounds really good.
It's about 2 hours, almost 2 hours long, and she comes across as it's got her old boyfriend on it who, they've been together for years, and he's very old. But yeah, she's quite candid and talks about the Runaways and her solo career. And
well, you got Lita Ford is still out there, and she's.
I had such a crush on Lita Ford.
What man didn't? I think most girls had girl crushes on Lita Ford too. She's still a beautiful woman.
Oh, she still is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Joan Jett looks beautiful as well. She's
God, yeah, she's still.
So I was like,
I mean,
I beautiful.
I haven't seen her lately, but yeah, she was always a really beautiful.
They're both out there touring again. They always went, but when the drummer died, I just wasn't ever going to come back together again. So
I was Joan Jett's kind of person that she's your friend. You got a bodyguard for life.
Yeah, maybe so. I got their albums somewhere still. They're hidden somewhere. I've got all these albums that are probably worth so much money. I need to get my hands on them again.
Well, if they're the original pressings, yeah, they
were. I got 2 Beatles albums that are the original pressings, and the vinyl is that thick. That's how original they are. I mean, you could throw them through a brick wall if you want to do.
I mean, speaking about females in roles, what do you think about Gina Davis's character in this?
I don't know what.
I found her a bit of a user. It's kind of funny because I think that she's with Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum doesn't seem like he has a lot of experience with the female
women.
Company.
No, he definitely doesn't.
And then he gets to Gina Davis, and I feel like Gina Davis only sleeps with him only because she wants the story.
Well, she thought he was cute too.
Well, I think she wanted the story but then she keeps going back to her ex-boyfriend all the time.
Well, she's not really going back to him, but he's her boss, her editor. But if you think about, put yourself as a woman in the 80s trying to break into the news or a writing gig, everything was harder for women back then. Not that I'm one of those crazy feminists, but I mean, we have had a row to hoe. So, I mean, things were different.
I don't know. I just didn't feel like the love.
She didn't seem like a nice person, but I think as the movie evolved, I think her feelings, she cared.
But I thought she cared like he was a friend sort of thing.
She wasn't too upset about her friend having his arm vomited off and then his leg. I thought he was going to start eating him, but he didn't. I was kind of hoping he'd eat him.
I kind of saw her going back to her ex as kind of like almost like a rebound thing after the whole thing with Goldblum didn't work out.
Yeah, but I never felt like when they were in the throes of this ecstasy relationship, it just felt like she's a reporter just trying to get her scoop. And I don't know if that's what they were intending, but I mean, I watched this film again. The first time I thought something totally different. Watching it this time, I was looking at them going, this is a very odd relationship between these two. And then when it
was quick too, because I think you're cute. Let's fuck, because that's pretty much what happened.
This movie does hit the ground running on that respect. Like literally, the first scene is them talking at a party, and she goes back to his place,
and they're back at his place.
Right out of the
Well, she only goes back to his place because she thinks there's a scoop there. That's the only reason why.
And then it's history.
She goes back there because she hears him over talking at the party, and then she goes back to his house. And then they don't sleep together on the first date, and he takes her out to dinner, and then
he takes her out, feeds her, then he fucks her. But either way, it was really quick.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I just find I just found the relationship kind of weird, and then she kept going back, and it's like, why are you doing this sort of thing? It's like, oh, I need to tell him about the baby. It's like, would you really? I mean, it's not like I had this deep, loving relationship that ran for years. It's kind of like within a couple of weeks. It's like, okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, how long does it take to turn into a fly? What do y'all think the timeline is on this thing?
I think they're saying about a couple months, weren't they?
Was it a couple months?
At one point, a month has passed since she's actually went and visited him because she said something about it.
Oh, okay. Because I'm trying to figure out the timeline. Because if she's pregnant and they've been doing it like rabbits for like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm assuming. And then she finds out she's pregnant. If my guy was turning into an insect, I would probably want an abortion.
Yeah, well, I mean, but she just came. I mean, to me, she just came across as a bit of a cock tease, really.
Well, maybe to the editor, her friend.
Well, I just no, but I talk about with her relationship with Goldblum. It's just like it would have been nice, I think. And I like the film, and I'm going to score this so high.
You know what's funny?
Looking back on it, and then this is a problem with Cronenberg films, is that human relationships take second stage to what's anything else. Whether it's Videodrome. I mean, there's no human. I mean, there's supposed to be like human connections, but you don't really feel any human connections in any of his films, really. Crash. I mean, Crash is different. James Spader basically having sex with people in automobile crashes.
And I was like this week year old.
Dead Ringers.
I was like this week. I never realized Cronenberg was the gynecologist in the maggot birth scene. I had no idea that was him. And it's just like, oh my God, it is.
I mean, his film after this was Dead Ringers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
About the double.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, about the double uterus or whatever.
He is sick, man. Where does he come up with this shit? It's like his mind.
Should we just kind of say it? It seems like Cronenberg is overall just our favorite, this podcast's favorite director in a way, because we've seen so many of his movies now, and we love every one of them.
Yeah, I can't really complain about any of his films.
I was just going to say, though, the only time I ever found a human connection in any of his films would have to be History of Violence with Vigo. And that actually had like the wife and the family. And, do you know what I mean? And that seemed to be more of it. But everything up to this point is like you watch it, and I think he's a fantastic film director. But you are kind of a spectator in a scientific experiment going on in every one of his films, whether it's Shivers or Videodrome or this film itself, and this is not a critique.
Or even Naked Lunch.
Oh my God! Don't get me. Scott just loves the Naked Lunch. I don't know how many times I have been tortured with the Naked Lunch. It's like I'm just gonna buy it for his birthday, so he has the authentic copy.
But even Peter Weller getting together with Judy Davis in that film, and they're both fantastic actors. There's that relationship that doesn't really, you don't get involved. You get involved in the story. His stories are fantastic, but as far as the human connection and the human characters and the way they revolve around each other, there's not this great big heart lovey ever in any of his films.
No, you're right. It isn't until he does, like, he gets away from doing body horror in the mid 2000s. That's when you actually start to see like an actual emotional connection with his characters, because it doesn't seem to be there with the body horror stuff.
It's all very clinical.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. And to testament, it works. I mean, it doesn't mean that makes his films suffer in any way. It just makes it, but they're very clinical. The relationships are very clinical. The body horror is very clinical.
Well, there's not no really big romance going on, so you're probably right about that.
Well, The Fly is if you look at The Fly and you compare this to the original is basically a family drama, and it's kind of fluffy and about this relationship in between what's going on. And The Fly is kind of a secondary story that's going on. And here, The Fly is done very clinically and very scientific. I mean, him turning into The Fly is all of it's very, very scientific. The way his body changes, his communication with everything, the way it's a very scientific way of looking at it. It's not.
Well, Scanners wasn't ultra romantic either.
No, it wasn't.
We covered quite a few Cronenberg films, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we did do Dead Ringers.
Well, we haven't yet.
We might have to have a David Cronenberg day. I don't know.
Yeah. I love David Cronenberg films.
We already did last October. We did Videodrome and Scanners.
Yeah, that's
and the week
true.
before that,
we did.
The week before that, we did the Dead Zone.
Nightbreed.
Yeah,
who could forget that?
Zone,
Oh my God.
Are
you guys going to watch the Hulu thing?
Dead Zone has human connections in it.
Yeah, it does. But it's still not. Well,
So
okay.
there's still a clinicalness to it. There's still
Walken's
very clinical.
but they're still like at arm's length. It's unrequited. I mean, somebody ends up alone. You don't feel all happy about it. Okay, there's nothing happy about his relationships. Nothing.
And you don't feel a loss for any of them when they die. You watch it and you're horrified by the death or what's going on. And even in Videodrome, still haunts me. From the first time I saw it at the movie theaters, it still kind of grosses me out. But I'm fascinated.
He is the go-to for body horror, though. He's definitely the go-to.
With Videodrome,
but I have to say, I'm never upset or emotional when any of his characters die. I tend to be like in shock, but I'm never like emotional with his characters.
Peaky Blinders.
even with Videodrome, where you have this movie that ostensibly has all the sex in it, but none of it has any personal connection. It seems like it's all
just sex.
James Woods is banging Debbie Harry because what the hell, she's a kinky little freak, and that's what I want,
Yeah, but there's no love to it.
No, if you think
not at all.
But what's quite interesting and that really works in Videodrome isn't that what porn is? Porn is not. I mean, you watch it, you jack off or whatever you do to it, but it's.
You talking about personal experience?
Well, the thing is, you're not involved in it, are you? You're
not
just
at all.
A spectator watching this act in front of you, but
I don't even think
you're not emotionally involved in it whatsoever.
I don't even consider those movies to even be arousing in any capacity. They're
they're not meant to be.
It depends how long. It depends how long your intervals are between sex.
It's just like, I think I'll take a David Cronenberg out, pop it in, and get out the old 4-foot vibrator. Like, no,
but I find with Cronenberg, what's also very, very interesting about Cronenberg's films, and this is what helps to fly along that. Even though, when you look at Shivers and you look at Scanners and everything else, and these are on paper, they seem so implausible. They seem as like, what?
Right,
the hell?
right.
But when you watch his films and his world, they seem like we're not watching science fiction, we're watching science fact.
Yeah.
Whether Dead Ringers or, Videodrome, Scanners, Slivers.
He always seems to find a way to make his sci-fi movies seem kind of plausible, which is appreciated.
Look at the one with the midgets posing as children, and they're going around killing everything. What's that one
what
called?
the hell was that movie? That's gonna bug me. I can't think of the name.
Trying to look.
Hang on, I'm looking. It's got to be in his top 10, easy.
And then she has the most bizarre looking body, underneath all that sort of thing. And and the thing is, under
The Brood. It's not The Brood, is it?
The Brood. That's it.
Okay.
And to be honest, out of any other director that would have done that would not been able to sell that. But when you watch a Cronenberg film, now again, when Samantha Eggers is going all out, I'm not emotionally involved with her, but you watch it and you're freaking horrified by the whole thing, that sort of thing. Which is, I don't think any other director's been able to do that in their whole career. That's something I think. I'm surprised that we have this is like a David Lynch-esque kind of film. And I'm surprised that we still haven't come up with this. No one else has ever done it ever again. We don't have anything that's a Cronenberg-esque kind of film, do we?
Well, who comes up with
that?
Just psychoplasmics. What the hell? It was psychoplasmics. I think that was in Oliver Reed was in that one. What movie was that?
He created a genre all his own, and yeah, you're right. Nobody's been able to replicate it.
The Brood. That was The Brood.
I would also think that Cronenberg it'd be quite frightening to speak to, because I think that he's probably at an intelligence level that probably is going to bypass anyone I'm ever going to meet in my life. You know what I mean? Because there's a highbrow intelligence to all his stuff, and here we got The Fly, and this highbrow.
He was studying some really serious biology, so he's a smart man.
Well, the highbrow intelligence is inside there. He's coming out with all this stuff from a scientific level, and
That's what makes it so very, very good.
And if you look it all up, I mean, and he knows what he's talking about, and he does it in a way that you're not bored. You don't have like someone's popping out at the end going explaining it to you.
Yeah, you're right.
Everything just froze for me.
I said that, with him, I mean, he does it from a very scientific thing. And what's quite amazing is that normally you would get a person off at the side. Okay, now it's time to explain what's going on, like you normally do in a lot of movies. But he doesn't do that. He peppers it all the way through, and that's a very, very clever thing to do. And you're digesting this information, and while you're digesting this, you are believing everything that's being told to you. And the thing is that you can take all these terms he's throwing at you, because I was actually doing it and Googling some of them, and they're real terms. They're real scientific.
I'm not bored with any of his films. I don't know about you guys, but I've never been bored with any of his films.
He doesn't treat his audience like idiots.
That's a good point.
He doesn't treat you like you're an idiot. He doesn't, like he said, he doesn't have the guy that comes out and explains everything at the end, because he's like, look, if you've been paying attention, you're gonna get this.
Yeah.
He's basically, like you said, just kind of peppers everything through and goes, no, you're capable of this. You're capable of figuring this out. I don't have to explain it to you. And he does put it in there in such a way that by the end you're like, no, this totally makes sense. It's totally plausible. And I
don't think he's a gateway drug to horror, though. I think you have to like find another gateway drug into it and then move on to Cronenberg's who you're going to graduate into.
Yeah,
it's not the one that you.
I don't know. There's got to be somewhere to go from there.
Well, I don't mean it's not so far going with you, but I think if you go into a Cronenberg film and you're not used to, if you're quite used to multiplex kind of films, that's
right.
Everyday kind of film. I don't think you can appreciate him. The same thing with David Lynch. It's the first movie you're ever going to see in your life. Eraserhead's probably not the first movie you should be watching.
No, I've watched that 3 times and I still trying to figure out Eraserhead. I think it's all up to the viewer when it comes to Eraserhead. So
that's most of Lynch's stuff, though.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a bit like, Eraserhead leaves me cold, but I'll say Mulholland Drive. And the reason why I'm saying Lynch and Cronenberg, because they're great big puzzles. Cronenberg's a great big puzzle that's basically you start out with this Rubik's cube that's all, and then you finally starts turning and twisting, and next thing you know, by the end of it, you have a perfectly solved puzzle. Lynch doesn't solve that puzzle for you. It's up to you to solve that puzzle. Like Mulholland Drive, it's like you're watching it, and you walk out there going, "What the hell?" Right. And then about a day or two after you watched it, all of a sudden you have that eureka moment where it's all of a sudden it all makes sense now. But you have to have that too. You have to walk away from it before any of it makes sense.
Do you think you get your epiphany after you have time to digest it? I mean,
Wild at Heart's like that. Blue Velvet's like that. When you first watch Blue Velvet, you're watching
Blue Velvet is one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen. It's just weird.
When you're watching it, you're going, "This is a really weird movie," and you can't stop watching it. And you're watching it. But the thing is, the clarification of that film doesn't come to like a couple days afterwards, because it's stuck. His films stick in your head and they're playing over and over. And then you realize that basically this is the chronicles of small town life. And what starts off is very, very bright and cheery, and the film's bright and cheery. That as you notice, the dark film gets darker and darker as you start scratching the surface of what's going on behind people's closed doors.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what do you get afterwards? You get the brightness of color again, because once this is solved, what does a small town do with dark hidden secrets? They bury them and everything's sunshine again. We're back in the, and it's chronically about how small town America really. But you don't realize that when you're watching this movie. It's like, who the hell fuck Frank? Fuck you, fat Blue Rude. And you got those people dancing to Roy Orbison, and you got Isabella Rossellini goes, I looked for you in my closet last night. Like, what the hell? but that's what David Lynch is. David Lynch is something you have to solve yourself. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't get it, because they want it all figured out for them. Cronenberg, different though. He gives you everything, and if you're paying attention, you'll be rewarded. If you're not paying attention, if you just snooze for about 5 minutes, you're kind of screwed.
Well, he didn't stick with the original ending from the original, so we didn't have no little white fly, with the white head.
Well, we don't get it. But then again, he's using a different. we're dealing with a different transportation as well.
Right.
Transportation, what happens is in the first one is split, and what happens is what happens is two things come out of the pod. In this one, it's a merging of DNA and merging of genetics that merges them together. So there is no second body that's running around.
That's right. That's right.
So it's kind of a different scientific approach to it. So.
You do kind of have the same ending, though, in a different way, though. In the original, you have Patricia Owen crushing her husband's head in the hydraulic press at his behest, because he's been
okay.
Hey, you got to do this because it's going to bring shame on our family. In this case, it's similar in that I kind of feel like at the end, Jeff Goldblum Seth Brundle wants to be killed, and that's when the shotgun blast comes in.
Right.
From Gina Davis. So I do kind of feel like in both cases, the person who becomes a fly eventually is turning to this person and going, if you really, really love me, you will put me out of my fucking misery.
Well, that is miserable.
I think both these movies do that, actually.
Well, yeah, I guess, but it comes at a different point in the film. I guess she does want to kill. Well, I mean, you find out all this other stuff that happened in retrospect in the first one, and the other one's more like a real time thing kind of happening.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I see where you're going with that. I didn't think of that. That's another good point, because technically she has put him out of his misery. I mean, because he doesn't really start. Well, she pulls off his jaw. And I think that's what really starts the massive deformity into a fly. And then it's just downhill after that.
You know, I do find it quite sad because I know I spent the last 10, 15 minutes saying about human connections in Cronenberg. But on reflection, I had to sit there and say that Jeff Goldblum's character is quite tragic, isn't it, really?
Very tragic.
You know, and the thing is that, you know, we find out by the end of it, you know, even though it's kind of a mixed up ideology that basically, let's incorporate you inside me, and basically the three of us will live together in this one body sort of thing. But at the same time, it's like what he hungers for the most is human connection, and that's what he's really looking for. And if you look at his whole relationship with Gina Davis, it's all about him trying to smooth her, trying to impress her. The whole movie is about him trying to impress her,
even to the bitter end, almost.
Yeah.
He's still talking his scientific bullshit, even to the end. I was thinking, what would happen if they actually fused? I was thinking of The Color Out of Space, and I was thinking of the mom and the son, how they fused. That was another winner.
Well, another question is that with fusing with another human DNA, would the human DNA overtake the fly? Would he maybe it would transform and start transforming?
Well, that was the whole point.
Because you would end.
Didn't he think?
Of having more human DNA than you have fly DNA, maybe. Who knows? I wouldn't want to be the guinea pig in that experiment.
No,
it's possible.
No, I mean, yeah, that was just no. It's just it's a sad downfall. It's like it's not like the post-atomic era kind of stuff that but it is one of those cautionary tales about technology, I think, in some weird way still.
I also think it's a cautionary tale about loneliness and basically what happens is when you're hermetic, you need human connection, but you're never going to find it. And as you go, and as things start deteriorating around you, that there's no way you're going to find it. So you just become very desperate.
Right.
It's quite sad because what can he do, really? What can he seriously do? And the thing is this is what I say about Gina Davis, and that's the reason why I don't think that this is what I have problems with the relationship with them. Is that she cares so much about him, she's not checking in on him every day to see if he's okay. She's not at all. It's like she doesn't want to see him. She doesn't want to be part of it. She's not helping him. She shows up, she shows up and says, "Oh, you look bloody horrible. Oh, I don't like the way you eat your food." She disappears for weeks on end, comes back, "Oh, I think I'm pregnant," but doesn't tell him for whatever reasons, and then goes out and then decides to have a tender moment with her ex-boyfriend about going to have an abortion in front of his house, sort of thing. I mean, he has windows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? And the whole thing is like, but she doesn't, for a loving relationship, she doesn't check on him regularly.
No.
Think about that.
That's
you're in
true.
Love with, now think about that. You're Gina Davis and you're supposedly in love with someone. You see this happening, and the thing is, you're scientifically right. You're scientifically, minded because you write scientific articles about scientific experimentations and the wonders of science. This is what you do for a living. So it's not like she's writing for People magazine and covering it.
No.
So that's why when I was watching, that's what I was thinking. It's like, when I was watching the movie, it's like she's not really checking up on him, seeing how he's doing. And then when she does show up, it's all about whether that they can get another story out of it. That's when she shows up again. It's just like
always a new. Well, you know how reporters are and stuff. Everybody wants that, initial first, getting it out there.
So I don't really consider this a love story because I don't
care. It's not a love story at all.
Yeah, because I don't think that she's emotionally invested in him. I think she's a bit upset to see what happens to her. It's like watching a human being get hit by a car. It's like, you get upset by seeing it, but you're not emotionally involved with it. It's just someone being hit by a car that's sad and horrible, but I don't know them. It doesn't matter.
I feel sorry for him in the end where he's just looking up at her with his fly eyes, and it's just like he's putting the gun to his head. So it's like, please just end it, please. I thought it was a very sad ending.
It's a very sad ending, but my sad ending for me wasn't about her. It was about him.
It was about him, not her.
And to be honest, it's like, let's sit there and say that this ran off without a hitch, and let's sit there and say that everything was fine.
Yep.
He would have had a glorious career, and he would be like he'd be what everyone would be praying to, sort of thing, is like one of the best scientists of all time.
Right.
Wouldn't he have? And of course, that all goes horribly wrong. And yeah, it's just quite sad. And the thing is, when you do see him, I mean, even when you see him at the party sequences, he's out of his depth in a social setting, isn't he?
Yeah.
Awkward. No one really wants to talk to him. When he does talk to them, they look like they're annoyed that this guy's talking to them. It's like, this guy's boring. It's like, go talk to someone else, please. I'm gonna go find a drink. Okay. Oh, I think I gotta go to the bathroom now. You're going go. Let's go. Oh, hurry up! Talk to me. He's coming. Just one of those. So for me, I mean,
you got to give an honorable mention to the boyfriend that loses his hand and a foot.
He's
John Getz.
The problem with John Getz for me, and he's brilliant in this, is that you just look at him, you think asshole. The moment he comes up, you just think he's an asshole.
Well, he does look like an asshole, but he then turns into quite, a cavalier, and he's trying to save her and help her.
No, he's trying to save himself. Really, I mean, he shows up to try to get a story, and he can't believe that he's changed so much. It's all of, okay, he does save her, but to be honest, I do think it's out for his own personal gain. It's like, I'll get a story out of this. So that's
I think he's just jealous because somebody's, tapping into one of his resources, so to speak, and he didn't like it. So,
well, I think he's like some journalists who are like film critics or people. Film critics are normally people who want to get involved in the film industry, but it doesn't quite work for them, so they critique it instead. He's like, those who can't teach. It kind of reminds me of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. Even when he is doing all that stuff towards the end, he still comes off like kind of a dick, and it's kind of weird seeing this character who the whole time has been portrayed as kind of this selfish character in the end, coming through being the one who's trying to save Gina Davis. But like you said, it's all for selfish reasons.
Yeah, I do think it's because to get the story at the end of the day. And even when she wants to get an abortion, he's kind of, he is second. He's not 100% on board. And for me, you'll kind of wonder if is he not on board because he's like, this will be a great story if she does give birth to
a fly
baby.
A fly.
He doesn't. But I think for me, his character doesn't put anyone before him. That's what I get from it. And
definitely.
even when he's rescuing her, he's kind of doing it for his own good. It feels like it doesn't. Feel
Yeah,
like
I guess you're right about that. I thought he was having a redeeming moment at the end. That's all.
No, I think he's just a cocksucker. He's just a dick. I'm sorry. He's just a dick.
So much for redeeming moments.
And I don't think he's supposed to have a redeeming moment. I think your redeeming moment is, Seth Brundle, the moment before he dies when he says, "Kill me," where he gets his humanity back. That's your redeeming moment for me.
Yeah.
He's become human. He's realized he's gone too far, and he realizes that, like your past, you can't go back and fix it, but I can fix, I can end it here, and hopefully you have a brighter tomorrow.
I just want to know what happened to the shitty ex-boyfriend editor. It's not like he's going to grow a hand and a foot back. It's like, what was his life like after this?
He's the only actor that comes back for the second one. So.
Oh, he does come back.
Yeah.
Does he got a hand?
No.
Okay.
No,
I might have to watch it now just because of the greedy bloodsucker.
So
yeah, he's
I haven't seen it for years.
I haven't either. I can't remember who's in it. All I remembered is
Eric Stoltz. I'm thinking,
Eric Stoltz. That's it.
You went from Mask to this.
I know he did too.
Yeah.
Mask was awesome.
Yeah, he's the only one that comes back, and he's just kind of this bitter prick, lives by himself, and doesn't care about anything.
He's the same.
So basically, I guessed him out right, didn't I? He's just a selfish prick.
Yeah. Basically, when Eric Stoltz shows up at the door, he lets him in, but basically he lets him in just so he can tell him, your father was a piece of shit, and I fucking hated him, and he stole my woman. Fuck you, get out of my house.
I'm definitely going to have to give it another look-see now.
Just
he did do some kind of wonderful to say here.
I liked Eric Stoltz in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I liked his very small parts.
Nothing against Stoltz. It's just the movie itself is just
badly written.
I don't even think it came out to cinema. I think it was like a straight to video sort of thing. I think it might have been planned for cinema, but I remember it being straight to video.
I don't remember seeing it in the theaters.
I got really disappointed because I saw in the opening credits that it was written by Mick Garris and Frank Darabont, and I'm like, oh shit, this might be like a nice little sleeper. It was a sleeper in a completely different way. It's completely knocked me out. Just the pacing is awful. Like this movie, we were talking about how like they hit the ground running immediately right off the bat. Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, hey, we should get together, go back to my place, take a look at this thing. It doesn't get to that point with Eric Stoltz and what is her name, the actress?
Shit.
I don't remember, but it doesn't get to that till like 40 minutes in, and it's like,
I don't think I ever finished it. I don't think I finished that movie.
The Fly 2 is a slog of a movie. It's every bit as dull as Cronenberg's movie is fantastic.
I think Daphne was too busy doing Melrose Place, so she probably did the end of it because that was the only time she could time him off for filming. I mean, I just remember Eric Stoltz and going to see it because I love one of my favorite Eric Stoltz movies is Some Kind of Wonderful, which I think is a fantastic film.
He's a good actor.
And then I remember seeing that. It's like, oh, I mean, in Mask, it didn't make a difference because I mean,
right.
He was under all that makeup.
Yeah,
that was such a great movie, though.
It was.
And to be honest, whenever I think of Mask, I think of Cher. I don't think of
I think of Sam Elliott for obvious reasons in The Mask.
I forget that Sam Elliott's even in it, sort of thing. I mean, this is quite interesting what David Cronenberg had to say about The Fly. He says, if you or your lover has AIDS, you watch the film and of course you'll see AIDS in it. But you don't have to have that experience to respond emotionally to the movie, and I think that's really its power. This is not to say that AIDS didn't have an incredible impact on everyone, and of course, after a certain point, people were seeing AIDS stories left, right, and center everywhere. So I don't take the other offense that people see that in my movie. For me, though, there was something about the Fly story that was much more universal, aging and death, something all of us have to deal with. Interesting. I don't see AIDS in it whatsoever. So Because unless he was having sex with the fly in the machine as you're transporting, maybe.
Well, I guess in the sense that like he Brundle is putting his DNA now into these women. I mean, that's how I mean, I don't know. Like I was born in 81, so the like I don't remember a lot of the AIDS scare of the 80s. I'm probably not the person to comment on it, but I guess it's probably the only way I could see it.
I mean, I think male flies. I don't think there are male and female flies, are there? I think they just kind of just lay eggs.
They do it.
Do they do it? I know that
They
sometimes
do
you see flies on top of each other's.
Because I always get disgusted when they land on me and they're in their vulgar position. Yeah, they do it.
Okay.
All insects do though. That's just gross.
But they both can lay their larvae into dead tissue. That's what they do to reproduce.
Basically.
So,
that's like the god awful hornet. They've got this weird hornet that lives here in Texas, and it lays its eggs in live stuff or in dead stuff, so the larva has something to feed on when it's born.
Like spiders and stuff, isn't it? And the spider will die as it's eating its.
Yes, that's exact. What is that thing called? I can't remember, but they always go after tarantulas, and I cannot remember what they are.
Yeah, hermit something or something along those lines. I know what you're talking about.
It's probably one of the most disgusting things in a documentary I've ever seen, and I know that everything has a purpose in God's planet. Oh, I don't get.
Well, I mean, if you look at, I know that we get the offshoot of how horrible flies digest and regurgitate food before eating it back up. But the thing that you don't know is that we use fly larvae every day in medical practices. It's the only thing that eats like gangrene. It's the only thing that eats gangrene and eats infections and stuff like that. And that's fly larvae. That's baby.
Well, they eat all the dead tissue.
And it's actually more antiseptic and cleaner than any chemical you can use. So, that's what flies are there for. Isn't it? They're part of the cleaning up process. Otherwise, there'd just be dead things everywhere.
We've got lots of turkey vultures out back.
Yeah,
they're circling all the time.
But it's the fly larvae that eats what the turkey vultures won't eat.
Yeah. So. Boy, they can clean up something in hours. I mean, just nothing.
So let's rate The Fly from 1986. And we'll start with you this time, Vicky. What are you going to rate The Fly from 1986?
God, I want to say 5. I think I will. Only I would say it because it's really, I don't know, if you're into science fiction, I don't even know. I guess this is body horror, right? Would you say? Yeah.
It's both.
I would say science fiction, horror, body horror film. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just because it's hard not to watch. I find it really repulsive, some of it. But it's just, you can't look away. So, and it's Cronenberg, film, and he's so brilliantly weird, I guess is the word. Mm-hmm. The only thing I come up with that just fits the director's description. And I just don't ever dislike any of his movies, tell you the truth. I'm sure there's probably one out there I don't like. I just haven't seen it yet. But no, I always give these a 5 because they're just fun to watch and they're gross at the same time. So I liked it.
What about yourself, Joe?
I'm going to go 4 with this one. I like it. I don't like it as much as the original Fly, although if anybody were to tell me that this is one of those instances where the remake was better than the original, I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
They're kind of different, though, so I just can't.
They're very different. They're very similar in a lot of ways, but still very, very different. Both, I think, are excellent movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about the 50s version that gives me that kind of warm and fuzzy feeling, even though this is the version I grew up with.
It definitely does.
I think like Keith was saying, I think it might have been maybe the writing in the original one was what worked for me. And yeah, I didn't find myself feeling as cold towards the characters in that one as I do in the remake. So love them both. I recommend seeing them both if you like science fiction, if you like body horror, if you like horror films, any of that stuff. You get two great performances by two great actors who are fantastically over the top, Vincent Price and Jeff Goldblum. And both of them are fun. So yeah, I love them. I love them both.
Yeah. There's no downside.
Something here. The other one has more humanity to it, and I think that's just the way it is.
Which it is lacking in this one. When you think, I was trying to think of ways to put humanity into it, but I have been corrected thus, and I do agree. So
the weird thing is, like, I feel like the lack of humanity in Videodrome works better than the lack of humanity here.
That's a good point.
I think here there actually is an attempt to try to make you feel something, but it just isn't there. Still, fantastic movie. Absolutely should see it.
Great point.
I mean, I think this is probably one of the most accessible David Cronenberg films.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's, so if you're new to him, this is probably the best one to start off with before you go down the Cronenberg rabbit hole. But saying that, I mean, I'll give this 5 stars because it's excellently made, and I do like the script. But if it does come down, if I'm going down to like human for being emotionally involved, I'm more involved in the 1958 than the 1986. But, if you want to see, something that's done from a realistic point of view, that's done quite clinically, but at the same time, if you want to see some fantastic pre-CGI special effects, you can't beat this film.
Yeah.
I mean, the makeup effects alone, I haven't seen anything that equals that since American Werewolf in London or The Howling before that.
That's true.
And,
First of all, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, if you think that Jeff Goldblum is inside all that and he's able to act through all this stuff.
And he's one of the few people that wanted the part because of all the makeup.
Yeah, but he does a freaking fan. I mean, this is a Jeff Goldblum acting extravaganza in its own. Just to see Jeff Goldblum's performance helps give this a 5-star rating. Now, where I think that if you take the original Fly, and I think that you could take Vincent Price out of it and put James Mason in there or someone else there because you have a strong, solid script, and I think that the film probably could play successfully as well. I mean, I wouldn't replace anybody in The Fly, but because it has such a strong script here, I don't think you could take. I mean, without Jeff Goldblum, you do not have the 1986 Fly. It's a
I think this is a great point.
And he sells it. And if it wasn't for Jeff Goldblum selling a David Cronenberg body horror film, I don't think it wouldn't be as great a film. So and 1986 is David Cronenberg's The Fly. I have to be in the right mood for it. The 1958, I can watch that any Sunday. Give me a rainy Sunday and that comes on, I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah.
The Cronenberg, I got to be in the right mood to watch it, be in the right frame of mind. So.
Well, the Cronenberg one is also a lot more, goes a lot more in depth into the science, and I think that makes it a little less accessible than the 58 version.
And that's what I like the science part of it, which I find quite enjoyable. But I said, what I said before though, is like I'm not emotionally involved in it though. I do feel sorry for I do feel emotionally involved when Jeff Goldblum said shooting. I thought, that's a bit sad. But it's like that. It's not like, oh no. I was like, that's a bit sad.
I'm trying to remember. Did the cheesy little tart that he brought home? She died, right?
No, they don't.
No, I think I don't know what happened to her. I mean, I think she just goes off,
Or she leaves. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I thought for a second I might have missed something.
She did go home with him after she broke someone's arm and almost in half. I mean, it's just like, what kind of woman is this? Sure, I'll go home with you. I'm impressed now. You just snapped someone's wrist. Yeah.
And she didn't want to either. Because
No,
she was
she
like,
didn't look
what
like
kind
she
of girl
wanted
do you
to.
think I am? Now he breaks this guy's wrist, and all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe it was more fear. Like, if I don't do it, he's going to fucking kill me. That could be part of it, too.
Either that or violence just makes her horny.
I know. I think it's like, oh, he must be on PCP. He might have some at home. I'm going to go home with that.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I mean, although the guy she was with was a guy who was quick to violence too, because all it took was Brundle talking to her when he jumps up and he's getting in his face about it. So yeah, maybe that's just her thing. She's just the kind of woman that goes for that kind of thing.
I mean, I guess another thing with Cronenberg's aging thing, I guess when males get older, we start growing weird hairs everywhere. So maybe that's where the fly hair comes in. I don't know. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut to an ad from another podcast called With Nothing to Say. So take it away with Nothing to Say podcast.
I'm Austin Lugo.
I'm Andrew Harp.
This is With Nothing to Say, and let's talk about movies. With over 3,000 films logged, Andrew and I, best friends since middle school, have dedicated our lives to watching, making, and talking about movies. Each week, Andrew and I handpick a movie he's seen, I've seen, or neither of us have seen, and dive deep into anything and everything two wannabe cinephiles could ever think of. From horror to dramedy, we do it all. So join us as we talk about everything movies, and maybe you too can become a bona fide cinephile.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast. Well, this is the end of our podcast. Next remake is the Pulse, which we'll be doing the Korean version and the American remake. And this will tie in also with our book to film, which we'll be doing Ringu, the book, the Japanese book with the Japanese film Ringu. And of course, next week we'll be carrying on with our double feature to carry on Horror is Art with The Hunger from 1983 and Liquid Sky from 1982. If I got the years messed up, I'm sorry about that, folks. And of course, Dark Shadows will continue after that, and the soap will be the week after that. So it's good night for myself. Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Vicky.
Good night, everybody.
And we'll see you next week for the 80s with The Hunger.